So it is April 23rd, 2019, and I just got out of Okko's Inn, the first feature-length film to be directed by Kitaro Kosaka, a man who once played a very key role in Studio Ghibli's movies. To the one person listening to this that got that joke, thank you very much, you're the best. I left the theater at the end of the movie with very mixed emotions towards Okko's Inn. I was very charmed by it. The characters are fantastic. The visuals can be breathtaking, although the movie does favor detail over motion at times, which is not my preference. I prefer there to be more movement and at the sacrifice of a little bit of detail. Both is great. However, this movie does favor detail over motion, and I respect that, but it's not the direction I would have taken. Okko's Inn is based on an anime, based on a manga, based on a light novel series from Japan. You could say that for a lot of animes. However, what is surprising about Okko's Inn is that I've never heard of the anime it's based on, despite it coming out just earlier this year. I don't know where you would watch it. I don't think it's ever been put on Crunchyroll or Funimation or High Dive or anything. There's a high possibility it's on Kiss Anime, but I don't like going on there. That's just a personal preference. But I wish I was more familiar with some of the source material, at least just the anime. I think would have helped me appreciate this movie better. The character designs in this movie are far more attractive than what little I've seen of the anime. They're pretty similar. Not to say that the anime looks bad. In fact, it looks pretty good in its own way, and I wish there was an easier way to get a hold of it. However, the character design in Okko's Inn is fantastic. Kitaro Kosaka was also the character designer for The Wind Rises, and Akko's father in this movie looks almost identical to Jiro from The Wind Rises. And that nice little homage to Hayao Miyazaki's one of his last works, apparently. He's working on a new movie, I believe. But that nice little homage to The Wind Rises is greatly appreciated. I think that's a really nice touch. I'm really enjoying this trend of past Studio Ghibli veterans branching off to make their own movies and start their own studios, like Studio Ponak, which is a lot of Ghibli veterans banding together to make what's practically a successor studio. And they made Mary and the Witch's Flower, which I thought was very good. And then they made the short film anthology Modest Heroes, that I have yet to see because I'm not much of a short film guy. But I really like the direction they're taking with that, and it seems like everything nowadays has someone from Studio Ghibli moving on to make their own works, and I think it's a huge step in the right direction. I'm very glad to see it, and I hope that doesn't stop anytime soon. I really want to see that keep up. It's almost, I would argue, just as good as seeing Ghibli make movies together. It is a shame that Ghibli themselves is, for the most part, done making movies, despite whatever Hayao Miyazaki is working on with his son right now. However, this, like I said, this direction that all the other past members are taking into making their own stuff is really, really, really nice, and I hope that continues for a long time. Okko's Inn is a slice-of-life anime with supernatural elements. While on the ride home from a festival, Okko gets into a car accident with her parents, and she's the only one who makes it out alive. It's implied that she's saved by one of the spirits that she meets in this movie. She's sent to live in this inn, which she soon becomes one of the main keepers of, and she's the only person who can see the ghosts that haunt it. There's a lot of predictable tropes that come out of this whole idea of Okko being the only person who can hear these ghosts. When they look through a book of pictures, you see one of the ghosts hanging out with a much younger version of a much older character, and it shows that, you know, the character that's still alive, she has gone on and grown old, while the character that passed away is still a kid in ghost form, and you see them together as kids in this black and white picture. That's something that I feel like I've seen before. It's definitely a very familiar concept. I can't put my finger on what quite else has done it, but it is a very familiar concept. It also does the whole thing where Okko is the only person who can hear and reply to the ghost in the inn, and people around her have to piece together what she's trying to say while she's talking to the ghost. They can only hear her out of context when talking to these ghosts. Again, a very familiar concept, something that has been done elsewhere before, but all of these familiar and somewhat unoriginal concepts are done well. So as far as it goes, being very similar to other things and not quite that original, it pulls off what it's trying to do very well and in a fun and charming way. I'm able to forgive that it does a few things a little too similar to other anime that I've seen. The thing about this movie that really held it back was its setting. Most of the movie is set in Okko's Inn, as the title implies. However, it just makes for a visually uninteresting movie most of the time. Well, yes, Okko's Inn can be breathtaking when it wants to be, and I'll get to the parts that were the best soon. However, most of the movie does take place in this inn, and it does not capture any interesting angles for the most part. There's a few pretty scenes that take place in the inn, but for the most part, it just looks like your standard Japanese rural home that we see in a lot of things. Like, you've seen it in Only Yesterday, you see it in My Neighbor Totoro, you see it in that one episode of Golden Boy, you see it in a lot of different things. It just felt very been there, done that for the most part. The best part about this movie was when it leaves the inn for a while in exchange to go to a mall, and it starts playing like this modern Japanese music, and all the characters try on new outfits, and there's like a little fashion show going on with that, and even the spirits will act like mannequins and new outfits, and it's very cute. I like that scene a lot. It really stood out from the rest of the movie. Even a few minutes after that, they go right over to another character's home that looks very visually striking. She lives in like this mansion type of deal, and her home is like this huge detailed library, and there are far away shots, there's long shots that really give you a sense of scale and shows you this movie's environment that the rest of the movie fails to do. And at the inn, Okko's Inn is not like Spirited Away as I expected it to be. I would compare it more to something like Miss Hokusai. Miss Hokusai, if you enjoyed the slow pace and slight supernatural undertones in that movie, you'll enjoy Okko's Inn. However, Okko's Inn never offers anything quite as grand of an adventure as something like Spirited Away or Mirai or Mary and the Witch's Flower. It's all about the characters getting to know each other. And if you're into a very character-driven show, you'll enjoy Okko's Inn. However, if you're looking for a big adventure that goes to a lot of different places and puts the characters in all kinds of different danger, you might find yourself underwhelmed at Okko's Inn. I liked Okko's Inn overall. However, it just really isn't my cup of tea. I'm all for slice of life. A lot of shows do it very well. However, Okko's Inn teases you with the possibility of something more grand in scale, and instead just keeps it very down to earth, which is a good thing. I don't want to say that holds the movie back. It's just not the type of movie that I like. I went into Okko's Inn expecting adventure, and what I got was very cute, very well done slice of life stuff. And that's fine, but it really feels like there's an even better movie buried beneath its surface. I hate using the word slow, because you can describe a lot of movies as slow, like The Wind Rises, Only Yesterday, Miss Hokusai. And none of these are bad movies, and I even really like Only Yesterday. I think Only Yesterday was one of the best movies listed there. But some movies do it better than others. Like Only Yesterday sets a better mood. It takes more of its time to concentrate on world building rather than character building. Same could go for The Wind Rises, actually. And that's why I can't compare Okko's Inn to anything other than Miss Hokusai better, because it's just so character driven and dialogue heavy that I really cannot recommend it if you're looking for an action-packed adventure movie. Again, It's just not that I don't enjoy this type of thing. It's just that I think Okko's Inn could have been something different. I'm giving Okko's Inn a 6.8 out of 10. That sounds low, that sounds bad, but I do want to emphasize that it is much closer to being a 7 out of 10 than a 6. That's why it's a 6.8, not a 6.5. It's not in the middle, it is close to a 7. It is just held back by the lack of variety and the focus on heavy dialogue. This movie does have some beautiful moments in it, and I did feel a little bit emotional towards some of the characters' backstories, and especially when Okko ever reflects on her parents, it is very heartbreaking. But again, it's just not as good as many other movies that GKIDS distributes. Tomorrow I will be seeing Penguin Highway, which I'm very excited about. Hopefully that falls more on the exciting end of things, which is more what I'm in the mood for right now. Maybe someday I'll rewatch Okko's End with a different mindset and I'll like it more. But for now, I am looking for something a little faster pace. Thank you for listening. Please like this video if you enjoyed. Go listen to the podcast. Go listen to my other movie reviews. Go watch the other videos I've made. I'll be posting reviews of mostly anime movies, mostly niche animated movies. Maybe some older movies. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But for now, it's going to be mostly movies like this. But mostly it will be new anime movies that are just now making it over here in America. Mostly stuff GKIDS puts out. I love GKIDS. They're great. That's all. See you around.